Are you okay?
Roma, I've got a real big problem.
What's going on?
See, I'm my high school's basketball star, but over the winter break, I met this girl who taught me that I really like to sing. But now all my friends are mad because I'm spending less time with basketball and spending more time with singing.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's really rough. There's only so many hours in the day, and you can only be one type of person, and I don't know how to choose. And Roma, do you know what the worst part is?
What's the worst part?
The gods have decided that humanity no longer deserves to live, and now I have to fight the gods of basketball and singing. Roma, do you want to talk about the hit manga and anime series Record of Ragnarok?
You bet your sweet grass I do, but how did you get High School Musical into this?
We'll have to figure it out later. Let's go!
You made my head step up.
At long last, 7 million years of human history, the apocalypse shall not occur from the fallout of nuclear war, extraterrestrial invasion, nor catastrophic asteroid collision. The extinction of mankind shall be ushered forth by the will of the gods, the very beings who created the human race, and who have now chosen to destroy it.
Should we allow mankind to exist for another 1,000 years?
Welcome to the Hyperfixation, where my friends come onto my show and tell us about things that they're excited about for 30 to 45 minutes or longer, because who gives a shit? The timer is a lie. My name is Roma Ostman. I use the they and them pronouns, and today I'm joined by a returning guest host, the one you love, the one you need, the one who's going to bring peace to humanity, Theo.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you very much, Roma. I am truly soaring and flying to be on this podcast again today. Yeah, I'm so fucking excited to talk about Record of Ragnarok.
It's gonna be so good.
Yeah, no, I think even before we can get into the thing itself, because in advance, if anyone wants something to just hang their perception on what this is that we're about to talk about, anime, manga series, does a tournament arc thing. But before we get into what it's actually about, we do need to address the fact that I was trying so hard to be sneaky with what this was, because it did not even enter my conscious brain that this might be something with which you were already familiar. So I was like, well, if you need something to name your Discord channel, you can just like name it ROR. You know, no one will ever know. And you're like, dude, are you gonna talk about Record of Ragnarok? Like, it's like I've been foiled.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, and there's not too many animes in this world that would have the initials of ROR, and I knew that they came out with a season recently, so that's where I was like, but I actually have I don't want to cut you off if you have something you want to mention, but I do want to share how I first got into Record of Ragnarok if you're interested.
Oh, absolutely. Hit me.
So you know how I really like VTubers?
Already in an interesting place. Let's go.
So a lot of things happened on this night. So I was making my own VTuber model for the first time. The funny thing is that this VTuber model I had made far too big of a file size. It was like a biblical angel.
The file size is too thick.
Yeah, no, like Live 2D crashed trying to just load in a leg. It was bad. But before I hooked it up into Live 2D, when I was drawing it, I had gotten my prescription of ADHD medication for the first time. So I sat on my couch, and at 7 o'clock at night, I had taken 10 milligrams of my ADHD medication and popped on Record of Ragnarok. And by God, did I get shit done. So I have very clear memories of watching my favorite PowerPoint anime of all time while drawing at record rates for having like I took medication when I was a child, but as an adult, for my brain to have one voice and so much focus is like such a core memory for me of success. So Record of Ragnarok has a special place in my heart for how I got into it. But as I watched the show progress, I like loved it more and more for the story itself rather than how I got into it.
I mean, no, that's fair. My story is not as outright dramatic as that. I think, if I remember right, the first time I saw it was on a plane on my phone, either flying. It was either for Christmas or Thanksgiving, and I want to say for Thanksgiving because I think I was visiting my future in-laws for the first time.
Theo.
And it was just like whenever I travel on a plane or like any sort of like non-driving travel, I convince myself I'm going to use that time for reading. And that's not even like a high demand because I read like in everyday life and so on. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get these multiple hours of uninterrupted, just me time. So I'm going to read. I never do. I always just like, wow, I can't focus right now because of like all the travel happening around me. Time for Netflix. And this just happened to be a series I had downloaded. I don't even remember why I had downloaded it in advance. I think Netflix was just like, you might like this because you liked Kengan Ashura, which, hey, plug for my first episode on this show.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, yeah, you might like this because you like Kengan Ashura. And I think I'd seen it in the Kengan Ashura subreddit. So yeah, I downloaded it, and I will say I don't think I fell in love with it in that first moment, but the seed was definitely planted. The moment where I truly fell in love with it is gonna be when I found out about one of the fights that we'll talk about here in a few minutes.
I'm so excited for it.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think you've given it a good enough prelude. I figure we might as well now tell the lovely listeners at home. I was about to say viewers at home. You know when you view a podcast, when you just watch the waveform of the podcast. But in that case, then, yeah, I guess we can go ahead and give the lovely listeners at home an idea of what this anime or manga or whatever beautiful piece of fiction you want to call it actually is. And then from there, we can get into broader specific opinions with also just a recap of all the batshit fights in this series.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so what Record of Ragnarok is it proposes a world in which all of the different pantheons of like every religion and mythology all coexist. And if you're asking, wait, how did the show explain this? It doesn't. Don't fucking worry about it.
Don't worry.
But it's, yeah, like all of them exist. And the one in charge is Zeus, but Jesus also exists, as we find out later. So already some interesting questions of how and who comes into power, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Zeus is in charge, and he has held a vote. All gods vote whether or not we kill the human race. And of course, because by this point we've invented cryptocurrency, the gods unanimously decide that we deserve to die. But
is it cryptocurrency or NFTs?
You know what? The gods probably weren't picky. I think both made it on the list. But wait, says Brunhilde of the Valkyries of Norse mythology, and then she, in a completely non-ironic manner, pulls the same shit that starts the plot of Space Jam. Because she pulls out a rule book that says you have to give them a chance to defend themselves. Because yes, it turns out humanity cannot be erased by the gods unless the gods defeat humanity in a series of 13 one-on-one matches with 7 out of 13. That is how many you need to win the tournament. That's how math works. The gods must beat 13 human champions in this tournament called the Ragnarok. You get it? It's like Ragnarok. It's like the end of the world. And
the end of the world as we know it. Sorry.
Exactly. It is the entire story is just 13 gods from whatever pantheon the author feels like, and 13 random, quote unquote, it's not random, it's never portrayed as random, but 13 human champions from anywhere in all of human history or location are now just fighting each other one-on-one, and it is insanely stupid and kind of kicks ass, but I do need to qualify going forward, because this is, you know how sometimes you have a series that all you can do is talk shit about it, but you love it anyway?
Yes.
That, for me, is a little bit Record of Ragnarok, because there's so many individual decisions that I love, and then a lot of individual decisions that I'm like, this fucking sucks. Why did they do this? But it all makes this whole that I have been obsessed with for the last several weeks.
I'm so happy to hear this.
Absolutely.
I lovingly call this anime because I haven't read the manga. I know that there's a manga, and I think if anyone's listened to the last episode where like I read a shit ton of manga in a short period of time, and I have a really hard time getting back into it. But when this show came out, I lovingly referred to it as my PowerPoint anime. Because it would constantly take these like jolting stops. It's like, hey, here's this new guy, but I need to tell you about like who this guy is. And then you do this whole PowerPoint about his backstory. And then we get to the fight. And then, we.
So most people call it a PowerPoint anime for a different reason. And I just shared why in the chat.
Whoa, let me see. Let me get into the chat.
It's for those who, in case you're not watching this, you're listening to this in the background, or you're just listening to this outright, however Roma ends up editing this. The animation in the adaptation, they clearly didn't always have the highest budget.
No.
So there are points there's especially one infamous moment in like the second fight, which is supposed to be like a JoJo's grade pummel duel. Just two dudes smacking the shit out of each other in close quarter, just wham, 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 wham. And the way they get this across is by like PowerPoint shuffling between a few still frames for like half a minute.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's not even like just not enough. It's not even that just animated awkwardly. It's just not animated. They aren't moving. They are frozen still.
No.
And just playing the sound of like two meat mallets being smacked against each other.
You know what's my other favorite PowerPoint anime?
Oh, what is it?
Way of the House Husband. They're so bad about it. But in like, it makes sense. It's a little slice of lifey, but it's just literal like...
See, that one, that one is, don't want to get too far off topic. That one, I read the manga first because Riz got it for me.
Yeah.
And then I tried to watch the anime, and I'm here to spoil it for you. The anime is just panel for panel the manga. It is. Yeah. It's not even a PowerPoint anime. It's just a motion comic.
Yeah.
I do love the comic though. It's a fucking Way of the House Husband could be a separate episode, I think.
Please. I would love to talk about it.
Absolutely. But yeah, Record of Ragnarok it's a series I have so much to say about. Not all of it is positive, but all of it is passionate. The way I would put it, and the way I'm going to put it last before we actually roll into talking about what fucking happens in it. I'm stealing this line from H Bomber Guy, but is it good? I don't know, but it's certainly the most.
Yep.
Yeah, that is Record of Ragnarok in a nutshell. Is it good? Who fucking knows? But it's a lot.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so like we were talking about the very start of the show, the premise is just, gods versus humans, any god versus theoretically any human in human history. So what sort of polls do we make? I don't want to give the full list of humans right away, because I do also want to like surprise the audience a little bit, even though I think you probably remember like some of the crazier names from the list, right?
And I think this is good to preface, is that I watched all of season 1 when it came out. So it's been a minute. It's been a couple years since I've seen it. And then I started the new season, and I think I got as far as like the second or third fight. And I watched like an analysis video a couple days ago to just like refresh my memory and like get some juices going. So some of them will be a re-surprise for me. It's like repackaging an old Christmas gift, like, so
I'll be glad to give you your early Christmas gift.
Thank you.
And also, I want to preface, if it sounds like I'm not facing my microphone when I talk, it is because I'm not. My computer is such a piece of shit that to save its like CPU a little bit, I closed Firefox and I'm reading my notes off my phone.
Oh my god.
So if it sounds like I'm not talking to the microphone, it's because I've had to look down at my notes.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, so really quick, just descriptor of like behind the scenes people for Record of Ragnarok. So don't want to shut their good work. It's written by Shinya Umemura and Takumi Fukui, illustrated by Azichika. I guess it'd be Azichika. Although it might be Ajichika. I found a few different names for them. It's super weird. But yeah, previous things they've worked on, Takumi Fukui, I couldn't really find anything. But Shinya Umemura, his big thing was Chiruran Shinsengumi Requiem, some sort of manga about the Shinsengumi, which I have not read, but some of its characters show up in Record of Ragnarok, which, hey, hot take, I kind of love it when mangaka do that shit.
Oh yeah.
When they do multiple very different manga and they don't make them crossovers. It's not an endgame situation where they're all building some event, but it is just like the background characters from one will show up in the other. It's just always funny to me.
What was it? I was just talking to my kid about Twilight behind the scenes stuff, and you know how like they put what's his name? The guy who made Marvel stuff.
Oh, Stan
what's his
Lee.
name? Yeah, so you know how Stan Lee's in the background of stuff because he made it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess Stephanie Myers was in Twilight background characters twice, but yeah, just that shit. Whether it's the creators or their characters, like I think that shit's really cool.
You know, it's always funny to me when characters overlap, not in meaningful ways, but just that little bit of like, oh, I recognize you.
I knew you.
But yeah, that's the basic premise of Record of Ragnarok. That's who made it. Now we get into the juicy bits. So, who is the first fight of Record of Ragnarok? Do you remember, Roma?
Oh,
I can give you a hint. The god is Thor of the Norse pantheon.
So is Thor? No, I don't actually. I'm very ashamed.
Blue fucking Boo of the Three Kingdoms.
Oh,
like
that's
from Dynasty Warriors, and like, wait, I guess also the real romance of the Three Kingdoms. Dynasty Warriors is so cool. I wish China was real. But yeah, no. So already it starts out strong with a wild pull of fucking Norse god of thunder Thor versus Chinese like Romance of the Three Kingdoms general legendary warrior Lu Bu. And before we say anything else, I need to open with the hot take. I fucking hate the Thor design.
I need to look at him
so
again.
much.
Let me look at him.
I've got a link somewhere. 1 second. Yeah, no. Please.
I feel like I remember. Yeah. No, I also agree. If he needs to be, he did not need to look like that. I guess I can see how, like, I can see why they think it slaps, but no,
absolutely, it's so bad. Like, yeah, for the listeners at home, what we're looking at is essentially a stoic-looking red-headed twunk, arguably twink. Definitely leans more on twunk than twink.
Twunk.
But yeah, no, because it's like, yeah, that's what they do. They make a stoic pretty boy. Or maybe not fully stoic, but definitely erring more on stoic than,
he
I don't know.
belongs in a dating simulator. That's what he is.
And see, implying the actual Thor doesn't.
True.
Because it's like, no, that's, because yeah, they make him like this very, stone-faced, he's bored because no one can ever give him a challenging fight. Anytime he's not in this first match, he's like sitting quietly somewhere watching the other matches. And I don't know why they chose to go with Thor and then make him not even a little bit like Thor of the fucking Aesir. Thor, the Norse god who is basically a Jack Black who fights, loud, boisterous, friendly with anyone, but will fuck you up if you're one of his enemies, and just loves to fight. And hey, here's critical. Literally could not be this like super svelte, lean twink or twunk or whatever, cause the dude eats nonstop. Thor could eradicate the entire menu of the Cheesecake Factory as an appetizer.
Bruh.
That is Thor of the Oseer. That is Thor Odin's son. And so they decide, what if we made him like, this pretty boy? I'm like, you made the wrong decision. This preface is, we keep using the word preface. We need to find a new word. This edges, no. This is, to me, a recurring problem with the manga, or I guess the series, we can say manga or anime, but the series, is that its character designs are hugely hit or miss. Some of them are really cool and really interesting and weird, like some we're going to get to later, but then some of them I think are just so lazy or dumb.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned Thor. Another one is that one of the spectators for the fights is Aphrodite, which... Yeah, you already remember who I'm talking about.
I had such a problem. Well, I had mixed emotions because yeah, I can't get into it. I think I'm just going to pop up an image on the screen, or you need to go. You know what? Actually, if you're at work, don't Google Ragnarok Aphrodite.
Yeah, no. Her entire bit is that she's an Aryan waif with massive gazongoids.
There's like, what is it? What's holding her gazongoids though?
They look like golems, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, just like stone men. Like, I'm not sure if they ever move, but they just like hold up her titties. And I'm like, it's clearly for a bit. It's not really played sexually. It's more for the joke of it. Like, there's even one gag they get out of it that I do think is funny, where in the Thor versus Lubu fight, the shockwave from the battle knocks her own tits into her face. And it's like, okay, that's kind of funny, but for the goddess of beauty, this is really what y'all went with? Like,
yeah.
Hades the game went with the better option, and I'm not fully in love with what Hades went for, because even that felt a little bit like just too easy. Like, oh yeah, it's like skinny, big titty hourglass, all right, like, cool. Can you bring up something kind of interesting and original? Like, I don't know, maybe this is woke of me to complain about.
What do you call it? I think in a way, I think it depends on the perspective, because yeah, I would agree. I would also love to see something a little more like original, but also there's two different perspectives. One, a marketing perspective. If you need people to watch your show, you better get that fan service going. So I can see where, like, from an editorial perspective or marketing, it's like, yeah, give them big old bazongas and make it ridiculous. But from another perspective of, if that's how they perceived Aphrodite, I'm so glad they at least gave her somebody to help with her back pain, or two people to help with that back pain. That's amazing. If I had big old gazongas, if I had two bitches to walk them around for me all day, I would be so grateful.
Oh my god, I can't believe that's your takeaway from Aphrodite. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm not sure I love.
There's, what was it? I did a lot of research on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jessica Rabbit. That was like one of the things with Jessica Rabbit, was that she's drawn that way, and that if she was real, that bitch would snap in half. Like, that there's too much weight. The weight distribution's fucked, and so I think the way they handled it was very clever.
I mean, I guess it's just, to me, it is a character design issue. I think it was. Yeah. I get that you're going for a joke. It just seemed to be a lazy pull for the goddess of beauty. When you have so many routes you could take, it felt to me that they went for just something really lame.
Does she fight? I don't remember.
Oh, absolutely not. This is something I'm going to get into later for actually the last round that's been published. There are no female fighters on either side. And
Rude.
Especially for the gods, I think that is hugely egregious.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the first fight, Thor versus Lubu, we're already opening up with an interesting matchup here. The fight, honestly, though, doesn't have a lot to talk about it, except, again, something I really, that gets specifically me, Theodore Monk, mad, is that one of the first major, like, turns in the fight is that Thor, he's taking this fight seriously. He's two-handing Mjolnir, which, if you don't know Mjolnir is, God bless you for not having seen any MCU films. You are so lucky in this human race right now. But anyway,
oh my God.
he's two-handing his hammer, which you can't two-hand Mjolnir. The whole point of the myth is that the handle was fucked up. The handle was only long enough for one hand. It was too short. You can't two-hand Mjolnir. So it's like, and this is where we start into something. It's like another thing that is both really hit or miss with this series. I'm not always sure how deeply I should look into it, because I already feel like I am crossing into CinemaSins territory.
Oh my God.
It's like, in this round, the human defeats a god. But how can a human defeat a god? Seems ridiculous. Ding! And I don't want to do that. Like we opened with, it's a fun, stupid series. Mm-hmm. But the thing the series sometimes does is it'll pull out something like real, like that no one really knows, like some actual like information that you'd only find if you were looking into it, if you were interested in researching this mythology or this history. Mm-hmm. And then other times it'll do that and reveal, like, it'll show that it did the research and be like, but the historical record or the mythological record is wrong, is incorrect. Here's what happened. And then other times it just gets it wrong. And I'm not always sure if it's on purpose, like they didn't care, or they just didn't do the research properly. So it's like, and him two-handing Mjolnir, especially with something that happens with Lu Bu, because again, the fighters' personalities, Thor has nothing to write home about. Lu Bu is just a dude who really loves to fight and is voiced by KG Tang, which is not an insult to KG Tang. KG Tang is a beautiful man and a great actor, but sometimes they do hire him on just to be guts again, and Lu Bu is a little bit just guts.
Wait, hold on. What has this man done?
KG Tang? Oh, he's done a lot of shit. He was Oma in Kengan Ashura. He's Guts in the most recent Berserk adaptations. He's Ichiban Kasuga in Like a Dragon. He's Gojo in Jujutsu Kaisen. There's definitely other stuff he's done, but those are like the big things that immediately pop out.
He's in Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
I would believe it. He's a great, like, I'm fucking good for them. That makes me want to watch it more.
He's Dazai. This is my favorite part of this podcast. It's like, wait, who's the voice actor? I need to know who else this guy was. And then I scroll through IMDb and I'm like, oh, he's all my favorites.
Oh yeah, no, KG Tang, he voices a lot of shit. He's always great. And he's, again,
He's
not
Retsu.
saying that.
Sorry. He's Retsu from
what?
Baki.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's Kaio Retsu. But yeah, so I was not saying that earlier that he's just doing Guts again as like that's a slight on KG Tang. Absolutely not. He plays Lu Bu very well. It's just in personality, Lu Bu is I want to fight and I'm mad because no one's ever given me a good challenge. And so like Thor and Lu Bu are fighting, and it's like the whole time it's like, oh, I'm so glad we're finally giving each other this challenge. I just realized that this entire time I have started my description of this series on such a bad note because I've just talked about a first round I clearly don't really care for. Which, to be fair, I think is like a lot of people's like how they encounter Record of Ragnarok is they watch the first match and it's not great, but then we're gonna get to the second match and things immediately fucking ratchet up. Yeah, the fight kind of proceeds as you expect, back and forth. At one point, Thor hits Lu Bu with the hammer strike that in universe killed the world serpent Jormungandr, and all it does is break Lu Bu's legs, so they let Lu Bu's horse in on the fight, confirming Lu Bu horse girl. Lu Bu tries to kill Thor by swinging his glaive, or however. Okay, so glaive would be an actor because that's like the European weapon. I don't know what you'd call it in like Chinese weaponry though.
I'm sure I'll look it up at some point.
Yeah, it's definitely somewhere. I think I knew it at one point. Basically, he swings his like spear onto Thor in like this secret technique called Sky Eater. It doesn't work. Lu Bu loses. So that's the first round.
Can I? Oh no, I have something I want to add into it, but I want to let you finish your thought.
Oh yeah, no, like that. I just basically wanted to cap off the first round because I realized I don't want to spend 20 minutes on a round just recapping every blow for blow minute when that round is frankly just not very interesting. The series kind of starts on a dud, frankly.
That's okay. It's allowed, I guess.
Yeah.
I remember watching this series, there was this show and every episode, and just thinking that it's just two meaty men bashing on each other, and I just kind of was just happy with that. It's just like, yeah, they're meaty men beating on each other, and I love to see it. Like, just, my one brain cell having a great time. But I didn't realize until 3 days ago that each fight had some sort of like intense meaning to it.
Oh, basically, yeah. Like that is every fight is themed after like, the strongest god versus the strongest human, the father of the gods versus the father of man, and so on. In fact, we should remember to bring those up because the fights after these generally bangers, and so I might have a little easier time remembering like the theming, but yeah.
I have an image that I'll drop into chat that we can refer to. I better see
this image.
It's got. Here we go.
Give me that delicious im.
Give you the juice.
Okay, yeah. I think this is. Oh, it's interesting. This is leaving out the most recent fight.
Yeah. Wait, most recent fight? Which one?
We'll get to that later, but round 9. But anyway, yeah. So first round is a win for the gods. That's the important part. Humanity sees that they can wound the gods because Lu Bu does injure Thor.
Nice.
And there's a little give and take, but humanity loses the first round. Oh no. Boo-hoo.
Oh, no.
The second round immediately does something I thought was really interesting. Because remember how I remember like 6 years ago, and I said that Zeus was in charge of all the gods. He was the head honcho.
Yeah, he's everyone's dad.
Yeah. So normally in the other tournament arc, he would fight last, right? He would be way later on. Record of Ragnarok throws him out second. And in universe, it is strictly because he just was so fucking horny for the fight that he couldn't hold himself back. And there's a scene that is really good. I remember how funny it is in the anime, but it is really well done in the manga, where because the second fight they're preparing to throw out the Hindu god Shiva, as in like Shiva the Destroyer.
Yeah.
He's about to go out and fight, but then Zeus just rolls up, taps him on the shoulder, and says, "It's my turn." And Shiva's like, "What the fuck? No, it's mine. We agreed you'd go last." And Zeus just goes again like, "It's my turn," and just keeps repeating that as he like very slowly just drags Shiva down to the ground until Shiva just gives up and lets him go. And already I think that's actually a really interesting play to make, that like they subvert that expectation of like, oh yeah, the most powerful god, the asshole we've been building up to the whole time is going to go last. No, he's going right away. We're fucking starting high here.
Oh yeah.
So Zeus is the second fighter for the gods. I'm going to guess, Roma, you do remember who fights second for the humans.
I do, and I remember it pissed me off. So you know how Thor pissed you off?
Oh.
Adam pissed me off, but not in the way that you think. Not in the exact one-for-one way. It was...
is it because he's a short king?
No. It was because of his what the Valkyries gave him.
Oh, and we haven't actually talked about the Valkyries yet, which, hey, might be thematically meaningful for the other things I have to say.
If I remember correctly, and if I'm allowed to get into it,
go ahead.
What's her name again?
Oh yeah, Brunhilde. I
Brunhilde.
kind of didn't emphasize it earlier. Brunhilde of the Valkyries and her younger sister Gull essentially act as like the leader figures for the humans team. They're the one, like mostly Brunhilde is the one selecting champions to go out and fight.
Yeah, it's like that Kingdom Hearts chess match. But what do you call it? But yeah, so the Valkyries they turn into weapons for these people, right? For the humans. Yeah,
I think the term in the fiction is Voland. They're Volander. They literally like they synchronize with their humans. They have to see if they're drift compatible with their human. And if they are, then they turn into some sort of weapon for that human champion.
Magical girl transformation.
And it's like, and that's how the humans are able to, it's made pretty abundantly clear that's the only reason humans can stand on equal footing with the gods and wound them, is because they have been given these divine weapons. Yeah. And that is the only thing that can harm a god.
So that I think is wonderful, but I think the choice that they made for Adam, at the time of watching it a few years ago, I was like, why? Why?
What was so for the viewers at home? The weapon in this case is just a pair of knuckle dusters. Why did that piss you off?
It just seemed like. I loved it. It pissed me off in a loving way of like, why would you just give him knuckle dusters? Like, why of all the options, of all the things you could have given him, you could have given the man a knife, a sword. You could have given him something that like goes with like Christian lore, like maybe some flaming sword. I don't know. But no, you went with knuckle dusters. I was like, that's fine, I guess.
Yeah, like I don't really hate it, but I also don't like love it enough that I'm gonna go to bat for it and explain to you in my 3-hour video essay on how the knuckle dusters are actually the best Voland. Because it's like I think it was just the author. The author was like, I want Adam and Zeus to fight barehanded, but I need them to have a Voland because like I put all this effort into like explaining this process. I guess I'll just give him knuckle dusters. Fuck it. But yeah, before we continue, I do want to point out, it's like, yeah, we didn't stop to talk about the Valkyries. And don't worry, dear listener, that was not because we have short attention spans. That's because the Valkyries basically don't fucking matter.
They're just there.
Like that is a thing that I think is, whatever else we talk about and being like, oh, this is weird, this is a bad decision, that is easily the biggest whiff of the entire series, is they make this big deal about how, anyone who dies in the Ragnarok just dies. They don't go to another afterlife. They are essentially erased from existence. And And this theoretically raises the stakes for Brunhilde and Goal, because they are sending their sisters, the other Valkyries, out to be the other weapons, to be the other Volans. So, oh no, if the human champion loses and dies, the Voland also gets destroyed and dies too. Shit. This makes it so much more intense, except not really. Because at no point do we really get to know any of the other Valkyries.
Yeah.
They could be divine weapons that also happen to be Goal's favorite toys as a child, and we would be getting the exact same level of emotional investment.
Yikes. I didn't think about it until you mentioned it. I just remember them being like, "Oh no, she died."
Yeah,
and moving on.
Yeah, Goal is heartbroken every time one of the humans loses because one of her sisters has died. Which, yeah, in universe makes sense. I'm not saying this is not why is she crying? Why is the water coming from her face? It's just that I don't care because I don't know who this Valkyrie is. I like Goal. I don't want to see her sad, but I don't know this Valkyrie, so I don't give a shit that she's gone. You forgot to stop and give her a personality.
I'm more worried about the human that died than the Valkyrie that died. Yeah.
Yeah, because the humans get, they understandably get the spotlight with the god to, actually, develop and reveal their backstories. But yeah, we don't get that same thing for the Valkyries. And it's easily the biggest whiff, because I think they either needed to not try to raise the stakes through that, it's an actual Valkyrie or whatever, or they needed to slow down the pace a little bit. Take some of the 16 hours they spend on flashbacks and use that for a little bit more time getting to know the Valkyries.
Yeah.
But whatever. I don't want to spend too much longer on that. That's just, if we talk more later about certain Valkyries that show up, or certain Volans or whatever, that is the background behind that, and it's not very interesting. 40 minutes into this episode, and all I've talked about is how much I don't like certain things about this show.
No, it's okay. We'll trim it down. We'll cut out some extra stuff. It is all good. We'll make it happen.
And I feel like this is a good reminder that hyperfixation does not always mean positive. Sometimes you hyperfixate on something because it is just there. Because it is stuck in your brain pan and you can't get it out.
That's almost exclusively Lewis's episodes of I need to bitch about this right now. But obviously not in any sort of negative fashion towards Lewis. But Lewis usually comes on of I'm pissed off about Narnia and I need to talk about it.
I still need to catch up on that episode. I'm almost afraid. Because hey, listen, I know this might get me canceled, but I still kind of like Narnia.
No, Lewis loves Narnia. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, thank God. But anyway, somewhere we were talking about the second round, Zeus versus Adam. Yeah, and when we've been saying Adam, we are talking about OG biblical Adam.
My dad.
The second fighter in the entire tournament is the very first human. And this is the case where I don't hate Adam's character design, because it at least has the excuse of they're deliberately going for the sort of Michelangelo look. They are using a specific artistic reference. They are twinkifying it, but it is a specific artistic reference. So,
can I share something with you? And I don't mean to derail again, but I needed to mention this on the show really badly. Are you on TikTok?
Mm-hmm. I don't have the app downloaded, no.
Okay.
Whenever someone sends me a TikTok, I just click the link and watch it in the browser.
There's this person, I don't know who it is. He just keeps showing up on my For You page. But this guy has these, pretend back and forths talking with himself, but it's supposed to be another person, where he has this whole theory that, Loki actually has killed off all the other gods and is pretending to be the biblical Christian god, and, talking about, the situation with Adam and Eve eating the apple in Eden, but it's actually, this other, Aiden or whatever, this other apple orchard that a god had that gives you longer life and intelligence and stuff. You know what I mean? So after seeing those TikToks about where Adam and Eve actually ate an apple that gave them god powers, I can't stop thinking about it just occasionally. And that's really a bad short explanation, but I need to find that. Whenever I find it again, I'm going to send it to you and make you watch them.
I'm so, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Sorry, wait. So this is a fiction within the TikTok? This isn't a TV show or manga that he's...
No, this is real. Talking about how this guy has this theory based on actual, historical text amongst, Norse mythology, Christian mythology, and so on and so forth, where Loki actually killed off all the other gods and has been pretending to be the biblical Christian god. and like how other like text and other events kind of like would make sense of like, it does make sense that Adam and Eve eat actually this kind of apple that gave them god powers, and then by doing that took the apple orchard away from the other gods, so they don't have god powers anymore and they all die, and that's how Adam and Eve got a longer lifespan, and you know, et cetera, and then moving down. I'm really just going off of memory here, but I always watch them and I always find them very fascinating, and it keeps making me think that it's just Loki, and that's why everything's the way it is.
What text? What the? I'm sorry, you're losing me and be like, oh, like mythologically or religiously, this makes more sense. Like, what the fuck is he citing?
Well, it's a TikTok. He doesn't have enough time to cite these things, but I just believe them.
If you're gonna like, if he's just like doing his own like Christian Norse crossover fan fiction, okay, like kind of redundant considering a lot of what surviving Norse mythology we have was clearly like kind of flavored by Christian missionaries at the time. But if you're gonna try to be like, oh, actually, like Christian, like like the Christian mythology, what if it was Loki? You better cite what you're fucking bringing this up. Otherwise, you are just writing fan fiction.
I will find it for you. We will discuss this more at another date.
Yeah, like absolutely. I'm sorry if this is just something someone is doing for fun. Cool. If someone's trying to pass this off as like an academic exercise,
no.
I'm gonna punch them in the throat.
It's just like one of those fun like things that make your brain kind of think for a second of like, that sounds neat. But I don't think the man's actually trying to say that like that is for real. He's just like, it's just kind of interesting.
I'm not trying to argue. I think he's trying to say it's like actually what literally happened. But like if he's trying to say that is like his academic dissertation, that in these mythologies, that's what's being said. That's like, what?
No. It's you know how like for example of like, well, you know, in the news this happened, but I noticed this other event happened. So he's putting his own like red lines together on a cork board, you know.
All right. And while we were looking away, Adam died. Oh no! Oh god! We missed the Adam versus Zeus match, and Adam died. That's how the second round goes. Adam and Zeus fight, and this fucks up Brunhilde's plan because she genuinely didn't think Zeus would fight until the very end, so she was hoping they could sweep the tournament before that point. So Zeus fighting Adam, it goes well for a while. They're relatively evenly matched, but then like Zeus ekes out a win. And it actually works really well. Some of the other lead up to that point, you might already be wondering, wait, biblical Adam, but you earlier said Zeus was in charge of the gods. So like what happened? It's basically a loose retelling of Genesis, except there's no Yahweh. Because what they set up is that Adam and Eve were created by the gods, so like they're closest to the gods. But then one of the gods, who is just confusingly is just they act like the serpent in Eden was just his own god, which okay. It's like he was trying to get with Eve and he was mad when she rebuffed him, so he like lied and said she ate the apple at the tree. She ate the apple of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And oh no, she's gonna get kicked out of Eden, and now like she's gonna be alone without Adam. So he went to that trial, ate apples in front of everybody while spitting them out, and decided he would leave Eden with Eve. Serpent Boy got really pissed about this, and so Adam killed him with his special power that gives him like his edge in the fight, which is just simply that he can look at what a god does and then do it.
Copy paste.
Yeah, basically, I think it's in the manga. It's called. I've seen it called Divine Reflection. I think in the anime, it's Eyes of the Lord. Maybe I saw that somewhere else. But like, there's a few different translations. Basically, it's he can see techniques that God is using, like say Zeus, and throw it right back at them. And that's how he lasts as long as he does, because he's just copying all of Zeus's wild swings. Yeah. And they do one interesting thing with Zeus where he has a technique named for Kronos that is a punch that is literally faster than time.
Bro.
Somehow Adam reads it fast enough to use it as a counter to its own attack and avoid getting hit by it, which is very nice.
Counter.
Yeah, like, you know, he counters the attack before it's happened with its own attack. It's some good shit. He then Zeus pulls out his final form, which is named for a fictional 13. We were talking earlier about doing like mythology fan fiction. The anime and manga posit that there was a 13th like great Greek god who just got fucking killed by Poseidon named Adamas, who is the god of conquest. And so Zeus has a form named for him called Adamus form, where I don't think this is how it works in real life, but he compresses all of his muscles so that like all that potential energy has got to go somewhere. But oh no, he can only use this form for so long before it like kind of tears him apart. They get in a pummel duel in the anime. It's a PowerPoint slide. Adam goes blind from being too badass. He does get one great badass line. I do genuinely love this line. So does everyone in the fandom, where everyone has assumed that Adam is fighting out of hatred for the gods, that he wants revenge. And they kind of bring this up, and Zeus is like, you don't have that hatred in your eyes. Why are you fighting us? And Adam replies, a reason. Does any father need a reason to defend his children? And it makes every single human being ever in history unite in prayer for their father.
Oh, dude, that popped off when that came up. I was just like, "That's my dad."
Yeah, and then Adam dies.
Yeah,
he does. He does win the. It's a fucking stupid ass like. Not stupid ass. This is a stupid ass positive where it's like he wins the pummel duel, but died partway through it and kept punching. Like literally, this is how the fight ends. They're in the pummel duel. They're punching each other in the face, like back and forth. And then Zeus collapses, and Adam is standing, and everyone's like, "Oh, Zeus has collapsed. This is the end. Like Adam has won." Wait a minute, he's dead. And Zeus is like, "Yes, he died partway through, but his body would not give up." Humanity loses the first two matches of the tournament. And it kind of sets a tone. That is one thing I really like about this. Actually, many things I like about the second round, and I think why many people cite it as like the moment Ragnarok gets good is that it subverts multiple ways. The big bad guy fights really early on. He is not the final boss. He is straight in from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And someone like Adam, who you'd expect to be like the guy who wins, the first human, the most specialist boy, he loses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really like the way that those stakes play. The first episode, the first match gives us the idea that humanity is going to have an uphill battle fighting the gods. The second episode really emphasizes how uphill that battle is going to be. Not even the progenitor of all humankind is safe. So this is where we get raring. Quick intermission before we get to the third episode. We forgot to bring up another thing I really like about this show.
Oh, no.
And that is how they do Heimdall. It's I don't have a lot to say about this. I just think it's a creative choice that like in Norse Ragnarok, in that tale of the apocalypse, the whole idea is that Heimdall will blow his Yaller horn to signal the apocalypse. That is the only time he blows on the Yaller horn. And so having it be that he is the fight announcer for the Ragnarok and the Yaller horn is his intercom is really good.
I was like so confused. I'm like, who are you talking about? And then once you mentioned the horn, I went, oh, that motherfucker. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, Heimdall is a really good announcer, partially because they really lean into him constantly being confused to the point of like kind of being humiliated. Mm-hmm. There's multiple fights where he's not just confused by what's happening in the fight, but there's just like fuckery behind the scenes as to how the fight is being set up.
Yeah.
Like who is fighting? And and again, the fact that the Yaller horn is like the intercom for Ragnarok, I think is really clever. That's his microphone.
It's amazing.
But anyway, the third match. So we're talking about the second match is a lot of people's favorite. It is not mine, and the third match is also not my favorite, but it does have my favorite fighter, and that is the fighter for the humans, Kojiro Sasaki. Or Sasaki Kojiro, however you want to name it.
I love him.
Yeah. I have it in my notes as Sasaki Kojiro, so I'm just gonna go with that.
Okay.
So Sasaki Kojiro, a real life samurai who in the series is referred to as humanity's greatest loser. And in real life,
for real.
Yeah. I mean, and while the show exaggerates what his real historical like win rate record was like, in real life, it is kind of inarguable to say that his most famous contribution to history is getting fucking murked by Miyamoto Musashi.
Oops.
Yeah, like
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
sure there's some history nerds who are like, yes, I know this one. This is a reference for me. I understand this. You don't have to explain it, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to explain it for everyone else. But yeah, in real life, Sasaki Kojiro, his most famous thing was that he got in a duel with Miyamoto Musashi that Musashi was late to on purpose to fuck with Sasaki Kojiro, and then killed Sasaki Kojiro with an oar. Uh, yeah, so that is the real life historical record of that fight. But in the anime, or in the series rather, instead of going with Musashi, they go with Sasaki Kojiro for the reason in that even though he is history's greatest loser, he always used those losses to improve, which leads to, again, another, like, talking about before, this show has so many little creative decisions that I love, and they're just buried beneath a lot of creative decisions that fucking baffle me. And it's that they established that every fighter in the Ragnarok, for the human side, for the gods, this wouldn't matter, but every human appears in their prime. So for a lot of these fighters, that's their 20s, that's their 30s, maybe their 40s. It is whenever the prime of their life would have been. And Sasaki Kojiro, even though he died relatively young, like 20s or 30s, he in the Ragnarok is an old man. And the reason for this is because his theoretical prime would have been with a lifetime of defeats and growing from those defeats.
Yeah.
So he's this unparalleled swordsman who has just never stopped improving. He is a master of sheer technique. And he is pitted against Poseidon of the Greek pantheon, who is just a raging, flaming asshole.
I hated him so much.
A lot of people like him, and I don't hate him as, like, out of kayfabe. I think he's, like, whatever. But yeah, his role in kayfabe is just that he is this, like, super haughty, like, pompous god who thinks that being a god is just all you need. You know, a god doesn't conspire, a god does not rely upon others, a god needs no one else. I am the prettiest bitch in the room, thank you very much. Yeah, that, like, so you were talking about earlier thematic differences in these fights. Like, Poseidon is, you know, the mightiest of the gods. Maybe not the mightiest of the gods, but like the proudest of the gods. And so meanwhile, he's being pitted against history's greatest loser. And yeah, this fight I overall like, but I especially like Sasaki Kojiro as a character. Because I do just find it really interesting how they play it. Yeah, he's not like Lu Bu, where he's just this innate level of strength. He's not Adam, where he has some superpower. He is simply experienced enough and has given enough of a shit about his craft that the start of the start of the fight does a fake out where, like, it shows him running up on Poseidon, and the Poseidon, like, spears him through the chest, and it's like, oh shit, like, that was a quick loss. And then it comes out, and Sasaki's like, nope, can't attack him like that. And it turns out that he is literally just running through, you know when you're going to bed at night and you go through arguments in your head because you can't go to sleep?
Yeah.
Sasaki Kojiro does that with real fights in the middle of real fights. And so,
I am like remembering, because I didn't remember any of this, and now that you're mentioning it, it's like popping up in my head. I'm like, oh yeah. I love this so much.
Yeah, it's just he is not strong, not fast, not like divinely gifted. He is a son of a bitch who has put his heart and soul into the sword. And there's even like some good dialogue play in the audience where, like, Miyamoto Musashi's son is like, Dad, why is that guy fighting instead of you? Aren't you the guy who, like, beat him on Ganryu Island? And Miyamoto Musashi is just watching, and he actually there's a really funny moment where his son's like, you should be in there after all. You wrote the Book of Five Rings, like the manual on martial arts even to this day. And when Musashi first sees Kojiro do literally anything, he fucking destroys the Book of Five Rings in one sword slash, and his son's like, Dad, why did you destroy that? And he's like, because it has been rendered obsolete.
Hey, yo.
Like, they get, so I think this is actually, I'm only saying this just now, I think that's actually a really clever move to take the dude who is more commonly thought of as the strongest sword fighter in history and use him as the hype man for the guy you're playing in the tournament.
Hey, yo.
I think they play that. I think they do that really well.
Oh, yeah.
And so the fight goes, and Kojiro, like, he keeps improving in the fight in ways that I think are both interesting thematically and as a character, and they play it symbolically in a way I like, where he is, the stock cliche thing where if you want to portray a character as, like, overwhelmed or some other shit, they're, like, drowning in the water, and it's quiet, it's isolated, and just, like, sinking. You know, it's all metaphorical and symbolic. Like, can you picture what I'm talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So they do that, but in this case, it works because it's showing how overwhelmed he is with Poseidon's sheer power. Because, hey, Poseidon's attack for this entire match is poke. He just pokes with his trident repeatedly. I don't think, I could be wrong about this, I don't think he ever moves from his starting point. He just like thrusts with his trident, and if the tables start turning on him, he just starts thrusting faster. 8. And yeah, so like Kojiro keeps improving. He keeps evolving his own sword style in the middle of the fight. And it actually ends up in this really cool moment where it looks like Poseidon has caught and then broken his longsword, his Japanese longsword, which I think has an actual name, but they do mention its joke name for how big it is the laundry pole.
Oh my god.
That Poseidon breaks it. And Sasaki's like, oh shit, this sucks. But then it splits into 2 Volans, and it becomes an evolution of Miyamoto Musashi's sword style, because that particular Valkyrie is one of those where she kind of has like, I mean, they don't use this word. She's essentially bipolar in the at least in the stereotypical sense of like she is literally like one to another end of her personality in like one go.
Gotcha.
And in the basis for that is this Valkyrie in question, Hrist, I think is how they say her name. In the actual like Norse documents, her name translates as both the trembling one and the quaking one. So she vacillates between being kind of like demure and like melancholic and being ready to snap a motherfucker's head off. And so I think the fact that they earn like that sort of double translation of her name, and that then also turns into like him being able to dual wield these swords in the style of Miyamoto Musashi's sword style in the middle of the fight, evolving further, is really good. And then we were talking about earlier, the imagery of him beating Poseidon, or of him losing against Poseidon rather, the way they signal the turn in the fight is he's sinking. Oh my god, like hole opens up because Poseidon's even more powerful. He's sinking. And then his sword touches the bottom of the ocean. And finally it clicks and he takes Poseidon out. He finally reaches the depths of Poseidon. And give it to Poseidon, he does not go out easy. Poseidon goes out by, first he loses his trident arm. So Kojiro cuts it off. So Poseidon grabs his own disembodied arm with the other hand, goes in for a second attack, loses that arm. Oh shit, what's he gonna do? Bites the trident, catches it in his teeth, and goes in for another attack. And finally, Kojiro completes the sushification process and just decapitates that motherfucker. History's greatest loser earns humanity its first win. And
ding, ding, ding.
I'm gonna mildly spoil something here. The Greek gods are obviously very pissed off about this development, and they want to get vengeance. If this was a It's Always Sunny episode, we would then come up with a title card of the Greek gods get their shit pushed in for 4 fighters in a row.
Bruh.
Yeah, because Zeus wins, then Poseidon loses, and like multiple times after this, they are going to send in other Greek pantheon fighters to like get their revenge, and they're gonna keep losing. I
love to hear
with that spoiler in and out of the way. Yeah, this is the third fight. So we're gods are up to humanity, or gods have 2, humanity has 1. So the gods are winning, but humanity has done the impossible. Now the gods are shitting themselves. Yeah. So then we get the next match, and Roma, this is my favorite match of the series.
Really?
Jack the Ripper versus fucking Hercules.
I actually wasn't super into this one.
I really like the Hercules versus Jack the Ripper fight. I think thematically and in execution, it's a I mean, I have the bias of, I talked about earlier, the moment I really got into the series, it was when I found out about this fight. It was when someone told me that the 4th fight of Record of Ragnarok is Hercules versus Jack the Ripper.
You know?
Because that's just such a wild poll. That's such a wild matchup. Crazier than any of the 3 we've had thus far.
You know, I'm really excited to hear what makes you super excited about it. Because when I was watching it, I was like, I thought it was a neat concept, but like actually watching it, I just didn't get that into it. So I want to, what you got for me? What's going on?
Okay, so as we've already introduced, that the whole chick of this fight is it's Hercules fighting on behalf of the gods, which is going to be funny for a few reasons here in a little bit, because even though he's fighting for the gods, Hercules does love humanity.
Yeah.
He is saying that he's going to fight for the gods, but he is going to then entreat Zeus and the others to spare the humans. So basically, Hercules is a liberal. He's not going to overturn the system. He's going to participate in it, but ask very hard for things to change.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is going to be extremely funny here in a couple matches.
Oh boy.
But yeah, like he's on good terms with Brunhilde and Gull. They're all friends, and yeah, but he's going to fight for the gods. And the human champion is the historical serial killer Jack the Ripper. And immediately the question is, oh, so they reveal who it is? I mean, not really. Like, that's one thing I'll actually give it to them. They don't try to, like, do some historical thing of, actually, it was this guy. It's a random dude. It's Jack the Ripper. We're not going to...
some guy.
Yeah, we're not going to worry about a reveal of which historical figure he is. He's just a murderer. And so already, the reason I like this is because of the sort of flip between face and heel while still maintaining the gods versus humans dynamic. Because, like, they announced the human champion. The humans are all like, well, I don't want us to be eradicated, but I'm not sure I can root for Jack the Ripper.
I do remember this.
Whereas Hercules, I mean, this is where I get once again to kind of break from mythology. Hercules is just basically the Disney movie version of Hercules. This is the Hercules we would have gotten if he'd been like, you know what? Fuck Meg, I do want to be a god. Because it's like he's super selfless and heroic. He wants to save all humankind in life before he ascended to godhood. He wanted to protect everyone, even his city of Thebes, against the gods. And so he like took on this great risk, became a god, became this beautifully muscular, heroic man of a god. I've lost where the train of thought was going. But yeah, so that is the match of this fight. And I really like that being the dynamic that Brunhilde looked at the fact they were fighting this incredibly powerful hero on the god side and went, I need to find the worst piece of shit who will take every ounce of like honor he is given. I need to counter this honorable fighter with someone who will take full advantage of that.
Yeah.
I really like that as the concept because from the beginning, Jack the Ripper takes advantage of Hercules by going, hey, how about we make this arena Victorian London? Give me a home field advantage. And Hercules is like, sure. And so out the gate, Jack the Ripper has the advantage and continues to press it by being a big old coward and piece of shit.
I do distinctly remember though, like when before the match even happened, like Hercules and Brunhilde had a conversation, right? And if I remember it, I feel like I could be remembering it wrong, but it just felt like, hey, this might be the last time we chat. And it's like, yeah, I love you, but outside, no, I'll never see you again. Have a nice day.
I mean, a little bit, yeah. Like
the humans gotta win.
Yeah, like Brunhilde is like she approaches this match stone cold. She does not answer Hercules with another great fighter who will like stand toe to toe with him and see who is more powerful. She answers him with someone who will press on every single one of his vulnerabilities. Most especially the fact that he is someone who is honorable and honest and wants to face things head on. Because Jack the Ripper's first move in the fight is to run the fuck away. Mm-hmm. He pulls out his Voland, which is a giant pair of scissors, fights for a little bit, and then runs. And Hercules follows him. What's this? Jack is pouring himself some tea. Do you want some? Hercules steps forward, like he triggers a tripwire, knives fall down, but they don't pierce him. But like it's already showing that Jack the Ripper is not going to fight Hercules head on. He is going to take him out at like subtle as a knife. Fittingly enough. And then they're fighting, and Hercules breaks the scissors, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, Jack's Voland, his defined weapon, the only thing that can hurt Hercules. It's gone now. Like, how is Jack gonna win this?" So Jack throws it like some more knives at Hercules, and Hercules is like, "Yeah, these will bounce off my skin too." No, they don't. No, they don't. This time they stab in, and so it turns out what happened was Jack the Ripper fucking lied. His Voland was not the scissors; it's the bags at his side, like these little like shoulder pouches. And as he says, like, anything I put into these pouches, I like that they become divine treasures. So it has to be smaller than the pouch, but I can do this. And he like starts throwing more knives, and it's like it's fucking Hercules up a little bit. I'm not gonna give a play-by-play of literally everything that happens in the fight. I've sort of gotten a little. You got excited after that. Yeah,
that's all good.
Again, as a concept and in execution of the concept, this is my favorite fight.
Oh, yeah.
This is the fight where I really like. Just the matchup is one of the few times where Brunhilde has seemingly put actual strategy into her picks. Because the rest of the time, it's just like, I'll do the one that is the most thematically fitting. Or like, I'll just throw this dude out. This is the one time where she's like, okay, I know this dude. I know how he fights. So I'm going to answer with the worst possible option for him.
Yeah. But doesn't that turn around toward the end? I don't want to jump ahead too far, but...
Well, so yeah, they fight back and forth. You know, Hercules does some shit. It turns out he's got like his own power up where he can bring power he got from the 12 tasks of Hercules to launch special attacks. But of course, if he does too many of them, it'll kill him. So it kind of limits him. And so Jack is going. At one point, Hercules knocks over Big Ben, and Jack is like hanging from the clock face. And so, like in a seeming desperation attack, he rips off the clock face and throws it at Hercules. And Hercules is like, all right, parry this. You know, like he holds up his arm, and the base of Big Ben cuts off his arm. And everyone is speechless because it turned out Jack lied again. This is the part I like. Jack lies multiple times, and it's like, yeah, hey, wait, why did we think he was telling the truth the second time? Because it turns out, yeah, no, the Voland was never his scissors, it was never the bags, it was his gloves. Anything he touches turns into a divine weapon. And then there's everyone having the oh shit moment of, oh, he's been running all around London. Everything is already a weapon. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it goes from there. They fight back and forth. And in the end, Jack wins. Jack defeats Hercules. Mm-hmm. And specifically the way he defeats Hercules is by he deliberately takes an injury in the side after Hercules has activated like his final forbidden technique. Basically, it's like what is it, like the 8 gates in Naruto? The thing that guy can't do or it'll kill him.
I haven't, I don't know.
Well, basically Hercules activates like his forbidden technique that if he uses it for too long, it'll kill him, but it makes it stronger while he's using it. So, he's going to try to kill Jack with it. But yeah, Jack deliberately takes an injury while Hercules is in this form and he's on the back foot. And then it's like, it looks like he's trying to hold the injury closed. He's stabbed through the side. He's getting blood all over his gloves. Oh, beans. Oh, shit. I'm going to have such a dry cleaning bill. And then, as it looks like Hercules is about to gank him, Jack stabs him through the chest with both hands because now his blood is a divine treasure.
Oh my god.
And yeah, he just absolutely murders him. And Hercules dies. This heroic character who genuinely loved humanity dies. And he dies loving Jack the Ripper. This is another reason I love the fight, is I think the way they play the sort of emotional back and forth between Jack and Hercules is well done, because Jack's backstory is a little sort of 13-year-old boy idea of edgy. It's not bad. It's just like, oh, he was a prostitute's son growing up on the streets, but he loved his mother and he thought his mother loved him. But then it turned out his mother saw him as a meal ticket. When she lost it, he killed her, and then his dad. Also, he can see emotions. That's why he kills people. That's literally when they need to give the reason of why he is Jack the Ripper, why he is a serial killer. That is the reason why. It's because he can see emotions and he finds the color of fear at the moment of death the most beautiful color.
I didn't know that, and that is wild.
Yeah, it's something. It's not a tactical advantage. You think it this aura vision would be like they would find some way to make it like, I can see your next move. But it's just he really loves the color people turn when they're about to die. But Hercules doesn't turn that color. His final color when he dies is love for Jack the Ripper, and Jack the Ripper realizes he has finally met someone who loves him unconditionally, and he has just murdered him.
No!
And so it's actually I think it's kind of emotional. I mean, it's not Dostoevsky. It's not going to go in the Library of Congress, but it should. But it's a good moment for what it is, and I think it's played very well. Also, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Shakespeare are commentating on Jack the Ripper's fight. I forgot to mention this.
I remember this. It was so good.
Yeah, the different fights have character appropriate commentators. All the way back in round 1, Thor has some minor Norse god who's commentating, and Lu Bu has his second in command, Chen Gong, like commentating. Most of the time, like because we only have 2 hours here, so like I didn't want to like do a roll call of every minor character because most of them are one-off gags, so it doesn't matter. But in this case, yeah, it's worth mentioning they got Jack the Ripper as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, basically cosplaying as Sherlock Holmes and Shakespeare, like talking about the fight. Yeah, so Jack the Ripper wins. Humanity is now tied with the gods. And yeah, so like the gods are now really shitting themselves, and the Greek ones are especially pissed off at the fact that they just lost. They just lost another Greek god. They went in for revenge. They got embarrassed again.
Oops.
Yep. So now we're on to round 5, and this is where we get into the moment that a vocal minority of the fandom's criticisms got slightly allayed. Because one thing that often comes up about this series is how of the 13 competitors for humanity, 4 of them are all from Japan. Which, as a lot of people pointed out, when you have all of human history across the entire world, that is a little bit of creator provincialism. It's a little bit of favoritism toward your own folk heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It annoys me only insofar as I think there would have been some. There are entire continents who don't get any heroes, that don't get any representative on the human side, and like that's the only reason it really bugs me. Like if if they'd been a little more even-handed, like geographically, I think it would have been more interesting. But whatever, authors will tend to be a little biased toward the heroes of their culture and history. So all right. But this is the fight that actually kind of allayed some of those concerns, because round 5 is Tamemon Raiden, a famous sumo wrestler, historical sumo wrestler, versus Shiva the Destroyer of Hindu mythology, or I guess the Hindu religion. Which, fun fact, if I understand correctly, that's why Netflix India straight up doesn't allow Record of Ragnarok on its service.
What?
Because I mean, India has a massive Hindu population, and they didn't like one of their major god figures being portrayed in this way.
I guess I can respect that. I just didn't know that. That's a fun fact for sure.
Yep. So round 5 is basically a slugfest. But actually I actually have like a few different opinions about round 5, because it is an entertaining slugfest for what it is. My problem with the fight is it essentially kind of reuses a major gimmick from the last fight, which is, I talked about how Hercules pulls out his forbidden technique, and if he uses it too much, he'll die. This fight reuses that at the end for both fighters, so it's a little bit like, well, you can't do this. You just did this. But what does make this fight worth watching is both backstories are actually like, I really like them. I think the backstories are strongest in this fight, or at least, if not the strongest ones, up there. Because Shiva's backstory in this fight, I want to preface, I do not know anything about the Hindu religion. This all may be so inaccurate as to be genuinely offensive. And so maybe I am propagating a horrifically, like, abusively offensive portrayal of Shiva the Destroyer here.
Oh no.
Should that be the case? My deepest apologies. It's done in ignorance, not malice. But
heard.
In this case, what it is that it was Shiva the Destroyer and Rudra, the god of storms. They were just 2 like country bumpkins, and they say India, which is funny because I don't know if they mean like India, or like gods like behind the curtains India. It's kind of ambiguous, but whatever. They just decide to one day go marching across India, fighting every other god in the country, to become the number 1 of all in all of India. I need to grab a quick drink of water. 1 second.
Do your thing. I while you're drinking your water, I just want to clarify that I did not see any of the fights moving forward. The only thing I got some information from that analysis video I watched, but I mostly paid attention to like the one after this fight and the one after that, and a little bit of the last fight. Otherwise, I know nothing. I have not seen anything from this point on.
Oh, then now this is where. Sorry. Anyway, and now this is where I get to take you on a ride. This is now you're in my domain. Because this fight is history's greatest sumo wrestler versus the top god of India.
Bruh.
Oh, excuse me. Because Shiva and his friend Rudra, who I do want to say they're played as like brotherly best friends. They could very easily be boyfriends.
Boyfriends?
like I don't say that in just like a queer shipping goggles sort of way. I say that as just looking at the way they interact and the tragedy of when they finally have to fight each other to prove who is the true number one god of India.
Mm-hmm.
These could be lovers. These could be two dudes who are deeply in love.
I love
just
to
the way
hear
it's
this.
played. Like I don't know. It's one of those where you could see it as genuinely either way, but the fact that you could read it as gay without doing too much like interpretation, like, they were roommates,
and they were roommates.
But yeah, that is Shiva's backstory. Is that like he basically in the end had to defeat his best friend to become the top god of India. He does not kill Rudra. That is the one thing they step back from. Okay. But yeah, like they they have this whole journey together and then have to fight each other. Whereas Raiden's I really like in that they started on a bit of body horror where he had to invent new muscles in his body to keep the existing muscles from crushing his bones.
What?
Yeah, the way they explain it is that when he was 3 years old, and like he couldn't walk yet, but then like he finally one day could get up and walk, but his muscles were so innately strong that they broke all the bones in his body. So to keep his muscles from killing himself, he had to develop new muscles within his body called the 100 Seals or the 100 Gates that kept all those other muscles basically acted as a power limiter to keep everything in check. Which is not how the human body works, but fuck it, that's rules. I like
do what you want, I guess.
Yeah, I like the idea of your body just spontaneously composing like 100 new muscles. But don't worry, he can break the 100 Gates now because his Valkyrie turns into a jockstrap.
What?
Not literally. She turns into, I think they call it like an exoskeletal sumo belt that it is a super buff Valkyrie named Thrud, who in the Prose and Poetic Edda, I think, she is the like embodiment of strength among the Valkyries. She's this big buff beautiful woman who I think you would like her character design. Let me see if I can find it somewhere.
I want to see.
Or you can Google it. You can look up Record of Ragnarok Thrud. Spelled Thrud. And she becomes his Volander. But when she does, she like makes a gas like, like you think I'm like kind of a freak, right? And his immediate response, Raiden's immediate response is, she's hot!
Yes.
And runs up on her. Yeah, he runs up on her. And first she thinks he's mocking her, and he just looks up and he goes, I'm dead serious. And so they immediately fall in love.
I love that so much.
And so she becomes like, she basically takes the place of his 100 Gates to become to limit the output of his muscles so he doesn't fucking kill himself. Hold on, I'm posting a picture of Tamemon Raiden because you've definitely seen Shiva, but I don't know if you've seen Raiden by this point.
I've got that one picture I dropped in there, and that's all I've got.
Yeah, and like here's another picture of Raiden. Those red markings you're seeing on his body, that is Thrud. That is Thrud keeping his muscles in check.
I want one. I want a lady to keep my muscles in check.
Damn, don't we all?
Don't we all?
But anyway, he managed to get his muscles in check. He kept from not dying. At the age of 5, he managed to, by sheer accident, defeat another boy in his village at sumo, just like on a whim, so badly that the other boy thought he was a fucking monster. And she's like, Mom, why am I a freak who like fucks people up? And his mom's like, don't you worry, like, hey, you know, your strength is a gift from the gods, and just remember, always use it to help the weak. Always use it to help the weak, not, you know, bully them, not impose upon them. And so like he grows up, he becomes again I'm sorry to keep going back to Disney's Hercules. He becomes almost like the good ending version of Disney's Hercules, just helping people around the village. You know, he's just a good boy.
Good boy.
And then the Great Tenmei famine strikes, which I think this is a real historical event. Let me look up Tenmei famine. Yeah, the Great Tenmei Famine. So this was a real historical famine, 1782, where like a volcano erupted, covered a substantial portion of the land in ash, and fucked up everyone's crops. So he goes to the city to become a sumo wrestler to support his village.
Mm-hmm.
And while he's there, he learns the art of sumo. He like learns techniques to further amplify his powers. And then there's like one scene that I think really makes it, where he's been fighting a lot of matches, he's been kicking ass, he's been making his mentor proud, and he sees that the other dude is terrified. And like before Raiden can even move, the guy's like, "Please don't hurt me!" And Raiden throws the match, which, as I understand it, in sumo is like a huge no-no. Like that is beyond shameful to throw a sumo match. It is a spit in the face to the martial. Would it be a martial art or a sport? I guess a sport. To the sport. And his mentor like walks up on him, prepared to chew him out. It's like, "How dare you do this?" A slap in the face to sumo. And Raiden turns around and Raiden is sobbing. Raiden is a wreck because he's like, "I promised my mom I wouldn't use my strength to like bully the weak. And I feel like it's what I'm doing now, but I can't stop because I need to send this money back to my village so they don't starve." And so like the way I think the series puts it is like he loved sumo, but sumo never loved him back because it's like he could never fight with his full strength because he was afraid of like hurting people weaker than him.
I love him.
So his fight with Shiva is the first time that he is able to fight with not just the full strength, but the full range of sumo techniques. Because when he starts, he's not using sumo. He drop kicks Shiva. He drop kicks Shiva right in the face, and it's really good.
Get him.
But then when he starts fighting, once he releases the 100 gates and he starts fighting with sumo, his first move is he crushes one of Shiva's forearms with like basically it's like twisting the arm. He crushes it in his hands, and then he does a teppo strike, which if you've never seen sumo, teppo is like basically a palm thrust just out. It's not a smack. It's not like a roundhouse smack. It's just like take your palm, boom, like right into the other dude.
Ayo.
And he destroys two more of Shiva's arms clean. He literally does the teppo. Shiva covers his face with two of his arms, and both arms are blown off. So with like in a few strikes, Raiden reduces Shiva from 4 arms to 1. 4 arms. Anyway, and yeah, the rest of the fight is basically them like, and it's a little bit of this is one thing where I said the actual procession of the fight is kind of a letdown because it ends up reusing the thing of like, oh well, like their forbidden techniques are going to kill them if they don't end the fight soon because Raiden's strength is once again starting to destroy his own body because Thrud can only do so much. And Shiva throws his fist into his chest and manually increases his heart rate to enter his Tandava Karma form, his world-destroying form, which makes him stronger, but also if he doesn't end the fight soon, will literally burn him to ash. And so they fight. I'll cut to the chase because we've been here for an hour and a half already, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if we'll have time for the full 9.
Just go for it. I've had 5-hour episodes. Just go for it.
But anyway, Raiden loses. He gives it his all, but he's ecstatic even in defeat because he has finally been given a chance to use his full strength.
Mm-hmm.
And even better, he dies standing. He like a true sumo, he never falls to his knees, he never gets knocked over, he always catches his footing, and when Shiva finally kills him, he stays on his feet. He never falls.
Baby.
And Shiva, who up to this point in the series has been like a super asshole about humans, he has the predictable one of like, you know what? Humans actually kind of kick ass because that was a great fight. That put me through my paces. And so it's the fight itself to me is so, but I think the backstory is what really make it. Like Ryan's especially, I really like that it plays the fact that he loves sumo and he loves doing it, but he also feels guilty because he feels like his natural strength is causing him to just like be an asshole to all these dudes. So he has to find ways to like kind of make it fair again. It's good. I like it. And now, but you know who doesn't like it is humanity because the gods are now up 1. Which leads us into round 6. And now I think we're now fully in territory you haven't seen yet because You were not this far in the anime.
No, but I did see some of the, like, I know little chunks from these fights from the analysis video, so like I could still picture it in my head and follow along, and I can kind of get what like the nitty gritty of it is, but I don't know the play by play of what happened.
Gotcha. Well, round 6. Round 6 is where the tournament really puts the turn in tournament. Because we mentioned at the start of the series, they do reveal who is fighting on which side. They reveal the lineups for the gods and for the humans.
Mm-hmm.
And for the gods, one of the names was Buddha. Was the Buddha of Buddhism. Mm-hmm. So already this is interesting. Then later on we see Buddha, and he's basically a hipster.
I love his design. I love him so much.
Yeah,
just from the little information I know, he's my favorite.
Yeah, so he is gonna fight on the god side. Round 6 comes along. Zeus comes to him and says straight up, "Hey, I want you to fight next round." And Buddha's like, "All right, fine, but don't tell me what to do," because Buddha is literally referred to as the most powerful adolescent, because in the series, this is another case where I am not well versed in Buddhism, so I don't know how deep into inaccuracy this gets. Presumably pretty far in. But Buddha's whole thing is that, like, you know, in heaven and on earth, he alone is the honored one. He does what he says. He does not do what Zeus tells him. He does not do what anyone else tells him. He goes his own way.
Mm-hmm.
So when round 6 kicks off and Heimdall introduces him, he walks into the arena. He walks to like the god starting spot, and then he keeps walking, and then he keeps walking, and then he's on the human side, and he takes Heimdall's Yallarhorn, and he says, "I'm fighting for humanity. Any god who steps in my way is gonna die." And so, yeah, immediately massive turnabout. Wait a minute. What the fuck? A god is fighting for humanity. And not just a god, but one of the 13 gods who was going to fight for the gods. What the fuck? Okay, who is replacing Buddha? Well, Roma, have you ever heard of the 7 gods of fortune?
No.
So I believe they're a Japanese pantheon. I don't think they're a religion unto themselves, but they are like their own contained pantheon of 7 gods.
Yeah.
Each has like their own like niche within the whole. I don't have all of them memorized, and that would be also itself like a lot to recount. Some of them are Japanese born, some of them kind of rotated in from like India or China. The point is, they are 7 gods of fortune. They're seen as 7 luck gods, and like luck for different trades. Like one is like a merchant god, one is like a fisherman's god, one is a fighter's god, so on. The 7 gods approach in the arena, and so at first it seems like their not their leader, but the one who represents the fighters, Vice Ravana, that he's gonna fight. And then it turns out they're not 7 gods. They're 1 god. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Zero Fuku. Zero Fuku is essentially this is not real. This is one case where I know this is not the actual mythology, but in the world of Record of Ragnarok, Zero Fuku was a god of fortune a long time ago, and he wanted to take humans' misfortunes away from them. And so he would travel the land, and he would literally like take the misfortunes into himself. He would let himself absorb all of this pain, all of this bad luck, all of this suffering, and he would take it upon himself because he thought it would bring about happiness for the humans. It does not, because of course it turns out just removing someone's hardships, it might make their life easier. It doesn't make them a good person.
No.
It does, and like, so it leads to a lot of self-destructive behavior on the parts of these humans. And then Buddha in this flashback literally strolls in and brings happiness to these people by reminding them that humanity comes from within. And Zero Fuku loses his mind because he cannot believe he went to all of this effort of doing right by humans, of taking their misfortunes, and then this other human, not even a god yet, but a regular ass human, brings them their own happiness.
This guy.
Yeah, just this motherfucking guy. And so Zero Fuku literally has to split into the 7 gods of fortune so that he does not end the world. But for the tournament, he comes back into Zero Fuku. Let me actually see. I might have another image of Zero Fuku. Oh yeah, I have a quick image of how Zero Fuku looked before becoming this fucking crazy monstrosity. Because yeah, he's just a guy.
He's just a little guy.
He's just a little guy. Yeah, before anything else, I want to take a quick aside to say, maybe this is just me being weird. I do think Zero Fuku and Buddha have slight T for T energy.
You know, I can see that. I can see that. I see where you're coming from.
This may also be the bias that I found out Zero Fuku. I was already thinking this beforehand, but this also kind of fan of slams. Zero Fuku's voice actor in the dub is a trans woman, I believe. Yeah, so it's like that may also that kind of helps inform it, I think. But just they have the vibes, especially in the relationship they have during the fight, because Zero Fuku is on the back foot for the entire fight. Buddha, like he is so pissed off at Buddha. He wants his vengeance on Buddha, and Buddha is just not giving him the time of day, not even giving him a clean shot, because Buddha literally has clairvoyance. He is so enlightened that he can see what your soul is going to do a few moments before you do it. And so he just uses that to fucking kick ass.
I am... Oh my god, I am so in love with this.
And meanwhile, Zero Fuku, I want to make a special mention for Zero Fuku's weapon, because I think it has like a particular name in the original Japanese. They give it like, the axe of some fortunes or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I want to give props to the dubbers, to the translators, because they make his axe of misfortune, his key, his signature weapon. They call it the I'm trying to think of a good way to say it. It's hard to say. The catastrophe.
What?
The catastrophe. The catastrophe.
Someone needs to be fired for that.
It's so funny because they don't stop to make a joke of it. They play it dead straight. Ares, we forgot to mention, Ares is one of the constant commentators for the God side, and he's a fucking loser. Imagine if Launchpad McQuack was a virgin.
Who's that? I don't know.
You don't know who Launchpad McQuack is?
No.
DuckTales?
No.
You need to watch the fucking DuckTales. We're having a fucking Disney Plus night after this. But but yeah, no, Ares is the god of war, and his role in this manga is to fucking get every piece of analysis in the fights wrong and be corrected by Hermes.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so Zero Fuku and Buddha fight, and Zero Fuku the whole fight, he's just flailing, angry, trying to kill the Buddha. And Buddha is just like is just knocking him back and forth until finally Buddha gives him the key to realize, wait a minute, happiness is within myself. And then they just drop their weapons and their powers, and they just have a fist fight, and Buddha literally beats the misfortune out of Zero Fuku and returns him to his original self. And it's like, wow, Buddha, like, thank you. Like, you know what? I guess really all I ever needed was to listen to you and realize what you were saying. Hey, why are my horns drilling back into my head? And this is when the fight turns. That is not where the fight ends. This is where you thought it was enough of a switch up to go from Buddha to Vice Ravana to all of the 7 gods of fortune melding into each other into Zero Fuku. You thought that was enough switch ups? No. Turns out the Abrahamic Beelzebub implanted Zero Fuku with the seed of the closest thing Buddhism has to a devil figure, which I've seen alternately called Hajun, Maya, and Papias. I'm gonna go with Papias because that's what the anime calls him.
Okay.
And so Zero Fuku literally has a horrifying transformation into this terrible demon man. And the ultimate fucking twist for this for Buddha, his clairvoyance doesn't work on Hajun, doesn't work on Papias, because it revolves around him being able to see your soul, to being able to see the light of your soul, and Papias doesn't have any light in his soul.
Oh no!
Yeah, and so imagine going from that dude up top who's like, dark and crazy and scraggly, to this sweet little boy, to this fucking thing. Dude looks like Dolph Lundgren became a Duke of Hell.
Bruh.
Yeah, and Buddha fittingly enough, goes through hell in this fight. Because like I said, it starts with the fact that he can no longer see what Papias is going to do next. His clairvoyance isn't working, so he's having to just rely on his raw combat talent. And unfortunately, Papias nearly destroyed all of hell earlier in the backstory. So Oops.
Oops.
But then Buddha gets a power up in the form of rediscovering his feeling of hatred. An emotion that he abandoned long ago, and so his weapon, which has been like transforming into different forms based on his emotions, transforms into like this crazy ass scythe. That's not good enough.
Bro.
So then what finally happens, what finally turns the fight, is that Buddha, he's lying, he's been beaten, he doesn't know how he's going to keep going on. Wait a minute, what's here in the dirt? It's catastrophe. It's the handle to catastrophe. And so then Buddha undergoes Volander with Zero Fuku to create a new, even more powerful weapon. Like, I don't remember what they call it. It's like something. Oh, what do they call this weapon? It's like a sword of fortune, essentially. And this inflicts such fear into Papias that Buddha becomes capable of seeing his soul again. And just straight up murders this fool. And wins the fight for humanity. And yeah, Zero Fuku dies. I'm sorry. That's the bad news. Zero Fuku does die. We nearly had a happy end. We nearly had a happy T for T love story, but not in this lifetime.
No.
Yeah. And I think actually I'm gonna make that the last fight ceremony I'm gonna give, because one, I only have so much energy left. It's 9:30 at night. I don't know if I can explain 3 more fights with as much intensity as I have thus far.
No, valid.
And also, this is a fight that is crazy enough that I think it serves as a good like leaving off point to try and get people interested, because we've just hit the halfway point. Gods and humanity are at 3-3. How do we go from here? So I think from here, instead of summaries, let's just go over like the remaining fighters, other thoughts we have about the series, and I think that'd just be how we wrap this baby up.
That's fine with me. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, so we talked at the beginning like some of the other fighters that are coming in. Do you remember any of the others that like caught your eye?
When I was watching the video I was watching earlier, I remember there was one god who this one guy who like got everybody's pain, like he took everybody's pain onto himself.
Ooh,
if I remember correctly.
That's not a god. That's the next human fighter.
That's a human fighter.
Yeah, well, I won't go over the summary yet. I'll to whet people's appetite. The next fight after this, let me look at my notes to make sure I'm not confusing it with another one. The next fight after this is Hades, the Greek god of the dead, versus Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, the first king of China. Yeah, so you were talking about due to absorbs like miseries and pain unto himself. Assuming that wasn't talking about Zero Fuku, like absorbing misfortune. No. That is Qin Shi Huang. In fact, that's actually a thing. If you see character art of him, he has a blindfold on, and that's because if he sees an injury, he will feel the pain of that injury himself. But that's partly what makes him a really good king, because he knows the pain of his subjects.
Oh my goodness.
So it's like that. Yeah, it's the next. So the next fight is king versus king, the king of the dead versus the first king of China. And
that sounds like a good fight.
Yeah, I will. Again, I'm not going to summarize it, but I will say it is a good fight. And quick sidebar, actually, 2 quick sidebars. A sidebar to the sidebar. One, Hades actually only joins to avenge Poseidon. He was not part of the original lineup. He becomes Buddha's replacement, and everyone shits their pants over it because god of the dead. And in universe, he held the line in Hades against the Gigantomachy by himself. Everyone else was fighting, like, they call it Valhalla, but because I think my mom will kill me if I say the Greek gods were defending Valhalla, the Greek gods were fighting in Olympus. We're fighting the Gigantomachy in Olympus, and Hades held the line single-handedly down in hell.
Bro.
And yeah, so it's like, and Hades just as a character design, I'm going to pull him up really quick, because I need to be thirsty for a second. Hades is my favorite character design because he makes me feel things.
He makes you feel things?
Look at this, man. Look at that deep cut on his shirt.
I gotta go. Mm-hmm. I'm kidding.
So the other thing is I really like Hades as a character, just how they play him. But more importantly, I really appreciate, of all the other complaints I've had about mythological and historical accuracy in this show and the series, I really appreciate having a Hades who the Greek gods just don't fucking hate. Like, even in pieces of media I love, like Disney's Hercules and the Hades video game, I do get tired after a while where the default is just, well, everyone hates Hades because everyone hates the god of the dead. Like, no, it gets more complicated than that.
Wait, what about, wasn't it that comic where it's like the Gods of Olympus one where it shows
Lore
Hades?
Olympus.
Lore Olympus, yeah. Like,
No, even
they
in
don't
that
show
one,
him
he's-
as... They do?
Even in that one, it's not as bad, but even that one, he's kind of like the weird loner almost. Like,
Gotcha.
people don't, like, it's not that people outright hate him, but he's just kind of like, no one likes him.
Yeah.
So I like that in Record of Ragnarok, they all appreciate him as a fellow brother. They really like him. He is one of the boys. The boys are back in town, and he is one of them.
Boys are back in town.
But yeah, no, the other moment, because I think this actually came in sync with learning about Hercules versus Jack the Ripper, where you really start to fall in love with the series, is seeing the full roster of human champions. Because some of these might have already seemed weird, like from the whole, wealth of human history. Like, these are the picks that are getting made. Like, like a sumo wrestler, right? Jack the Ripper. Like, Jack the Ripper is the first one you probably mentioned that would be like, he's not a fighter though, and like, yeah, and I have to get another quick sidebar out of the way while we still have time. This is something that the authors did in a side story that I really hate, and is one of the only times in my life I have just decided to straight up ignore the canon of something. There's been plenty of times where I disliked the canon of something, and I'll just be like, you know what? Like, I'm just not going to think about it. There are a few times where I've just decided, you know what? That didn't happen. I don't care what the author says. And this is one of them, because there's a side story where it turns out that it's not Jack the Ripper.
What?
Yeah. Turns out this isn't Jack the Ripper. This is like a proto MI6 agent who took the name Jack the Ripper as like an example to humanity, I guess. Maybe. Like, it's really dumb. Literally no one in the fandom likes it. Not a single person on the subreddit likes it. Everyone has agreed it's a really, because it's theoretically it explains why he's able to go toe to toe with like a Greek demigod like Hercules. But in that same vein, it then also takes all the thematic weight out of the fight, because he's no longer humanity's greatest evil, or at least the greatest evil they could pull out that we could theoretically root for. Because that is the thing. Like, the anime and the manga really emphasize how it's like the pinnacle of human and he's evil, Jack the Ripper, and like people pointing out, but there are people in human history who have done way worse things, right? And I thought about that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess there's like a hidden parenthetical to there where it's humanity's greatest evil, parentheses, that we could still get you to get behind, because it's like you wouldn't be able to put in like Hitler or someone who, that would be humanity's greatest evil. I ain't gonna root for Hitler. People do that unironically in real life, and we don't need to do that for play here. Like, no one in real life is unironically rooting for Jack the Ripper, so that's fun to be like, okay, yeah, he's the guy in this fight who we want to win, all right. But you couldn't pull in like Pol Pot. You couldn't pull in like some actual like person who committed real life atrocities and get the same sort of fanfare. That would just be, you couldn't carry the bit that far.
No.
All of this to say that, yeah, Jack the Ripper is probably, anyone listening to this probably went, that's a weird fighter's choice for humanity, right? Like, there'd be other great fighters. Baby, you don't know how the half of it, because hey, do you know who else is on the list for humanity? Let me pull it back up real quick. Oh, the contestants for humanity. Let me see. Well, like I mentioned, we have Lu Bu, all right, great warrior. Sasaki Kojiro, a great swordsman, Raiden Tamemon, is a great sumo wrestler. What's Nikola Tesla doing on here? Hey, mangaka? Why is Rasputin on this list? Hey, author man. Why is Nostradamus the prophet on here? And why is he another twink? Because that's the thing. Nostradamus has not fought yet. He is supposedly humanity's Joker. He is who Brunhilde is like saving in reserve. And he is a twink for some reason. Even though every famous representation of Nostradamus is this bearded old French man, he's just a nice little pretty boy now. Oh god.
What?
Yeah, like I don't know why.
I want to see this twink right now.
Let me see if I can find Nostradamus. Hold up. Record of Ragnarok, Nostradamus.
Are you keeping up with Chainsaw Man Part 2 manga by chance?
Oh, I have not read any of Chainsaw Man yet.
I'm not going to spoil anything then.
I know some spoilers, but it's like, yeah, this is. Can I download this image? I have to do some stupid bit.
WebMP.
Yeah, no.
You can copy paste WebMPs.
I mean, you can, but the annoying thing of trying to do stuff on my phone is that like wiki articles never want to let me just straight up download their image or copy their image. I always have to like, go onto the page. But it's like, yeah, this is what they did for Nostradamus. And by the way, in this universe, he has been in hell for the foreseeable past because he tried to destroy the Bifrost.
Why does he look like the twink option in a dating simulator?
Yeah, that is the thing. That this artist team went out of their way to twinkify as many characters as they could. And you know what? I'm partly here for it, but other times I'm like,
thank you for your service.
Yeah. Honestly, though, the fighter I am most excited to see, I think the two fighters on each side who have not gone yet that I'm really curious for, is that on humanity's side, one of the fighters is Simo Haya, who, if you don't know that name, he is one of the most famous snipers in all of history because he was a Finnish sniper who fought in the Winter War against the Soviet Union during 1939 to 1940. He is believed to have killed over 500 enemy soldiers during the Winter War, highest number of sniper kills in any major conflict. And he used it. He no-scoped all those bastards. He used the iron sights on his Mosin Nagant rifle and killed over 500 Soviet soldiers.
Wait, I just need to know, do they have like a code on the bullet that they use to figure this out? Like, how do you confirm those?
So I will say, obviously, that number is probably at least slightly exaggerated, and potentially maybe it's totally bullshit. But like, it's an interesting military story that like he's like just and nothing else. It is confirmed he survived a fucking artillery strike from the Soviets, and you know he did because his face in real life looked like this. Don't worry, it's not going to be gross. It's just going to be like, it's not like I'm not going to show you blood more.
Yeah, no, I trust you.
God damn it! It didn't download. God, I hate pulling images on my phone, and I hate my computer for making me have to. But anyway, like, yeah, no, the White Death, Simo Haya, was fucking crazy in real life, and as a pick for Ragnarok is another crazy selection. And anyway, he looks like, please download this time. He looks like this. We don't know if he's twinkified yet.
Hey yo, look at him. I love that.
Yeah, no, I'm just so curious as to what the hell his match will be like. Because yeah, he's a sniper.
Wait, the match isn't out yet?
No, he's one. Because remember, like this thing. If you've been listening to this and you're like, oh shit, you spoiled so much. Guess what? It's still ongoing, and even I don't know how it ends yet. I don't know. Like Record of Ragnarok is still going on.
Oh,
and on the god side, the remaining fighters we have who have not shown. I guess I will start back from the fighters I have not covered. So the next match is Hades versus Qin Shi Huang. The match after that is Beelzebub versus Nikola Tesla, who is wearing power armor. The fight after that is God Phoebus Apollo versus King Leonidas of the Spartans of the Battle of 300. And after that, the remaining fighters who have not had a match announced yet are Loki, Susanoo no Mikoto, the Japanese lightning god, Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead, and Odin of the Aesir. And for humanity, we have 4 of these 5 options are going to go. Because remember, Buddha picked up a fight, so someone on this list is not going to get a chance to fight. But we have Rasputin, the Mad Monk.
Mm-hmm.
We have Okita Soji of the Shinsengumi. That's one of the fighters I mentioned earlier, who is a character in that author's other manga. It's the same Okita Soji of the Shinsengumi. Michelle Nostradamus, Sakata Kintoki. I don't really know who that is. I think it's a Japanese folk hero who is also friends with Buddha. He's shown up, but he hasn't fought yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I mentioned, Simo Haya. And yeah, of those, I'm really curious what they're going to do with Anubis and if they'll make him a hot jackal man, because I am a furry.
Mhm.
I'm really curious what they do for Simo Haya, because yeah, like the snipers match, and he's not gonna have a straight on fight unless he does. Like, what's gonna happen here?
Who knows?
And they are setting up some wild shit in like the background of the manga. Because one thing I kind of hadn't had a chance to mention through any of those summaries is that Brunhilde has been all but stated to have been planning this Ragnarok long before it actually happened. That there
She's
is
been cooking.
some, yeah, she's been on that stove for a hot minute, and it has something to do with Siegfried the Dragon Slayer from Norse mythology, who has shown up only once, and he is locked in hell somewhere. So it's like they're still popping that off. Even if I wanted to spoil exactly what's happening, I couldn't. Yeah, Brunhilde has something going on in the background for all these fights, and I am both really stoked to see where that goes, and more importantly, what other really stupid shit are we gonna get out of this series?
I'm very excited. I
Absolutely.
honestly thought this whole time that the show would be effectively done. By this
no.
season, I just boldly assumed it was over. I didn't realize that it's still actively occurring.
Nope. The season you're on finishes with the Buddha fight. We have not got like, and then Qin Shi Huang shows up at the very end, and that's when it stops.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, I listen. Hey, and I can tell you, the manga not bad. And so I guess that's actually a good place to close out. If this has piqued your interest, in you being Roma, but also you, anyone listening, if you do want to follow up on this and you don't want to wait for more anime to come out, some options for reading. There are plenty of free like translations I found online. Regrettably, most of them suck. Like I tried reading one for like just straight up free, and in the beginning, already one of its lines is like, you know, what caused humanity's annihilation? Nuclear warfare. And I'm like, nope, I'm gone. Yeah, like that's not like, if you can't like, if that is the heat you're bringing out the gate, I'm not sure I can handle this. So what options do you have from there? Well, I know of the first 60 something chapters are on Komaiki, which is a manga app, like a manga website that, unfortunately, as already alluded to by the fact that I've gone over the free options, some of the opening chapters are free. So you can at least start out, see if you like that translation, see if you like the manga. If you want to keep going, I think it costs about $30 to unlock the rest of the chapters total.
Okay.
But if you want to keep reading past that, then up to chapter, I think 83 has been fan translated through, like the few chapters after that have been translated through Scans of Ragnarok on the Shumatsu no Valkyrie subreddit, which Shumatsu no Valkyrie is, as you might guess, the Japanese. And so yeah, basically, if you want to read the series, you can either just dive into all those free translations, and when you get about to the 60s mark, switch over to Scans of Ragnarok, and there'll be a way better translation. Or if you're willing to chill out the dosh a little bit, you can get the Komaiki translations. They're a little cleaner, they're a little better, and what are almost worth how technologically unstable Komaiki is sometimes. I've gotten so many errors trying to read these chapters.
Oh no.
But yeah, and then once you read all the chapters that are available on that site, switch over to the subreddit, look at the Scans of Ragnarok chapters from there, and you'll be up to speed in no time. Because yeah, the most recent chapter 83, just finished a match. It just finished the Apollo versus Leonidas match. So if you want to get on the train now, you're starting just in time for a fresh match.
Gotcha. Okay. Woo. I am pumped.
Absolutely.
I'm so pumped. Like hyperfixation activated. Let's go.
No, seriously, like this manga is not, as we opened with, is this manga good? I don't know. It's definitely the most, and that is going to be my final word on Record of Ragnarok.
Sounds good. No, valid. My camera just died, but it could stay dead for now.
Oh no, your camera died and went to Niflhel, just like in Record of Ragnarok, the anime.
Oh wait, actually, 1 second. I can fix this. I can fix this. Yes. Words. I'm pulling it out of hell. I'm like that episode of Supernatural. What was it, season 3? I raised it from perdition.
Did your camera tell you it loves you?
Yeah.
It went to turbo hell.
My camera went on tumblr.com and said it was bisexual and then took it back. Thank you for laughing. I'm back now.
Excellent.
Fuck yeah, no. Thank you. I honestly, I just like came at you at like left field, and I was like, "You want to do an app?" And you're like, "Yes, please."
No, listen. Hey, you know what? Now my friends are okay with me doing basketball and singing, and I defeated the god of basketball and music, and that's the only thing we needed today.
You brought it back. We went full circle.
But anyway, yeah, no, thank you for having me on. It's always fun to just come on here and just dump on you for 2 hours about whatever the fuck I've been getting super into.
I needed this. This was beautiful. I also need now to go watch more analyses videos and see what the scholars of YouTube have to say as well, and then I'll report back and be like, yes, this is what they had to say.
Sounds good.
Oh my god.
Is this part of the show where I give like my handles and whatnot?
If you want to, yeah. If you whatever closing statements. I feel like we did a lot of closing statements, but anything you want to say, and then you want to give your handles, and we can move.
Yeah, sure. No, I think I've given, like I said, my last word. I've given my last word on record of Ragnarok, so now I'll give my first word as to where you can find me on the internet. Where I'm most active is going to be Twitter, while it's still alive anyway. You can find me at 4 whole moons. That's 4 as in the number spelled out, whole as in not half, and moons as in the thing I am. I don't have a funny joke. I'm so tired of record of Ragnarok, and it's so hot in my office right now.
Oh no.
But yeah, you know what a moon is, idiot.
Idiot.
I don't know why I'm being mean to the audience. They just listen to me talk about a really stupid manga for 2 hours. But anyway, yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at 4 whole moons. That's also basically my Blue Sky handle. I don't know how you enunciate a Blue Sky handle beyond just the part you decide. Just type 4 whole moons, you'll find me. I also don't really use Tumblr, but if you want to find me and give me a big kiss on the cheek over there, you can. That's first of the 4 moons. If you want to check out my website, it's going to be www.theodoramonk.com. That's where I kind of keep like anything I've been doing, anything I've gotten published, because I am also a writer outside of this. I'm theoretically available for hire, but I'm also just working a lot of personal projects right now. So, you know, but if you want to hire me, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you can find me. It's what I'm doing other than this. And yeah, once again, thanks for having me.
Hey, literally anytime. It is always a treat to have you on. I was like bragging. I was like, Tony, I've got Theo on my podcast today. I'm so excited.
Thank you. I'm genuinely honored.
You actually, you remember how originally we were gonna do this like an hour prior to where we moved it to? Yeah. It was really funny because like it was like 7:00 and Tony's like, your podcast, and I was like, it's in an hour. Like, oh. Thank you.
Podcast. My cabbages, but it's a podcast and a podcatcher.
Shit, you can find me in my cabbages on the internet too. You can find me. I'm dying. You can find me on the internet at I appreciate your butt at twitter.com. That is IAPPRECI, the number AGURBUTT, or I can look at your butt. You'd appreciate it. You can find me there on Twitter. That is now X, which I hate to say that. Tumblr, you can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me in a lot of other places, but those 3 are you're going to find me the best. You can find this podcast as an entire whole at the Hyperfix Pod, anywhere at that. But if you go on Redbubble, it's the Hyperfixation. No, it's the Hyperfix Pod on Redbubble, but the Hyperfix Pod on Patreon if you want to support us. And then anyone who wanted an update on our website, I did buy the URL, but I didn't finish the process, and they said you can't have this anymore and returned my money, and I thought it was hilarious. I full stop ADHD'd the website, and they were like, just take your money. Just go away. Thank you to the Moonshot Network for letting us do this podcast. You can find the Moonshot Network at moonshotpods.com. If you want to see us visually instead of audibly, you can find us at moonshot.mov or moonshot.mov. You'll find the Twitch or the YouTubes there. And you can also support their Patreon as well if you want to support everybody in the network. But those who directly support us here at the Hyperfixation get a shout out at the end of the episode. And those wonderful human beings who give us money so we can keep doing this fun activity is Morgan Gate 11. And then we also have Flo. Hey, it's Ken is here and supporting the podcast. Becky Scott Fairley is here supporting the podcast. I'm sleepy. Last but not least, Ver is here supporting the podcast. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this song. So you too could hear me say your name with my mouth and maybe do something a little goofy, a little silly and tell you I love you if you go to our Patreon. Thank you to Offuscate, that is OFUSKATE, for our intro and outro music. You can find them on the internet at SoundCloud or Instagram or Twitter. Thank you. We love you. So thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Make sure you
pray to the gods that they don't destroy us tomorrow. But if they do plan to destroy us tomorrow, get your buffest best friend and get him to fight Hercules.
Yeah. Or if a Valkyrie says, hey, come with me, don't. It's going to be scary. Or do, if you're strong. If you're not, I don't know.
And make sure Brunhilde doesn't add Elon Musk to the list of humans champions.
Yeah, no.
Brunhilde, no! Oh, shit!
Brunhilde, no!
Brunhilde, you just lost us! Oh, fuck, I'm disappearing!
Be safe. Don't die. Drink your water. Take your vitamins. Do self-care. For the love of God, do self-care. And Badoop?
Badoop.
Yeah. Badoop.
Badoop, y'all.